What's going on, everybody? Ulfhednar here, and I'm bringing you a video about Greatsword, the upcoming weapon in next patch, Brimstone Sands, that's coming to New World, hopefully in October 2022. So basically a month from this video being recorded. Now I'll talk about it, the passives, the combo I've come up with, which I believe is one of the strongest ones. So let's get into it. So first things first, I have a video running in the background. You will see in a second how I do my rotations. Was grinding weapon mastery experience, but with that in a second. We're running 3 skills. First is Relentless Rush, which slows. It's a double spin attack. It slows targets for 4 seconds as a 70% slow. First attack is 110%, second 120% weapon damage. It cannot backstab, and you enter into Onslaught stance. Now, Greatsword is about 2 stances. The Onslaught stance, where you deal more damage but also take more damage. And your heavies are twice as fast, but they consume stamina. Now there is a Defiant stance, which is the defensive one, where you take less damage but deal less damage, and your charge heavy attacks block incoming attacks, which of course eats stamina away. Now the rotation with my build, we have also Skyward Slash, which is our opener. It staggers a target, amazing for PvP. It also deals a rend, applies a rend, 2 stacks. Now if you're in that stance, Onslaught, the offensive one, you apply another rend. But since we start the rotation, it's this skill first. So that way we have Onslaught stance, and we go into third but second skill in our rotation, if that makes sense, which is Roaring a Rupture, which is AoE Shockwave with 120% weapon damage. It gains 45, 8% for 5 seconds, up to 3 stacks. It also has a Grit and Threat generator, which is great for dungeons as a tank, and I believe Greatsword will be the best tanking weapon, but we'll see if they will change some things. You enter in Defiant stance when this ability ends, but main thing is to look at is this thing right here. If you're in Defiant stance, the Shockwave, this skill pushes foes away, but if you're in Onslaught stance, which is the offensive one, it pulls foes together. So we start with applying rend stacks. You get into offensive stance, which deals more damage. You go into this, so it's not 120% weapon damage, it's way more because of this stance once again, and because of this passive, it pulls foes together. Not only it deals that, it also clears or cleanses 2 debuffs, which in my opinion is super OP, and it also applies weaken on the target. And on top of that, you're becoming uninterruptible for 5 seconds. This is literally Berserk from Hatchet. You cannot be knocked down on the ground. You cannot be staggered. The only thing that will stop you is either root or stun. Let's talk about the root thing in a second, because root for this build, for Greatsword overall, because of 1 perk, has no issue at all. Anyways, we are first this skill once again. We enter Onslaught, we go into Roaring Rupture, deals super high damage, AoE. After this, we get into Defiant stance. With Defiant stance, we heavy attack the mob, and while we are heavy attacking, we are also blocking incoming attacks, right? Once we finish heavy attack, we are back to Onslaught stance, and then we go into Relentless Rush, where it not only slows the targets, but it also roots the targets. As you can see here, Onslaught stance applies a root to targets, it hits for 1 second, or in Defiant, it heals. That heal is not that bad if you have a lot of enemies that you roll through. You can see in the clip in a second that I used it sometimes as well, depending if I need a heal, but the root is what we're after. It also gives you Empower, another increased damage. Combined with this, it's some solid increase. Now, this perk could be good for PvE. For PvP, we'll see OPR, maybe Wars as well. We'll see about it. But anyways, we are finished with this skill. Target is rooted for 1 second. And with that, from there, we go into a heavy attack. And since we are in this stance, it's twice as fast. So the target has no way of getting away from that heavy attack. That heavy attack will just hit. And if we can get this passive for your charge heavy, reduces cooldown by 10%, and we pair it with refreshing move on the weapon, which is another 2.8%. I will show you here. We can do it right now. This is not the sword I'm talking about. We are talking about... Nope. This one. Refreshing move. Heavy attack. 2.8%. But this is 600 gear score weapon, so it's gonna be much higher. In that pair, I think it's gonna be very OP. Now, Skyward Slash also has a follow-up attack that deals massive amount of damage if you light attack right after using the skill. But that's sort of we are really after, because I don't think there's enough time of lighting that second attack. I think people, once they get used to the skill, they will just roll, dodge away from the skill. But maybe the stagger from the skill itself will be enough to hit the second attack. But this thing, not only we have root and heal and slow from one skill, and also buff and power. Not only we have Fortify and Grid on top of that, and a CC, which is the pull, and a cleanse, and applying beacon, a debuff, and becoming uninterruptible. We also get disease, which reduces healing by 20% for 10 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this weapon is absolutely busted. If this goes through, well, goddamn, I don't imagine anyone else playing a different weapon than Greatsword. And since this weapon scales from both strength and dexterity, same weight, same number, it's not like strength is scaling higher or dex higher. Both are equal. So that opens up a lot of possibilities when it comes to build. Now you could also do a combo where you lose Skyward Slash, you take Crosscut, you enter Onslaught, you do Relentless Rush, you root the target for 1 second, you go into Crosscut for some damage. You could do that. But Crosscut, I feel like people are gonna easily roll dodge away from this, avoid this skill. It's a slow animation as well, I feel like. Hits for a lot, but 3 hits, that's too animation, too such a long animation. People will just get away from that. I would say this is a PvE skill for dungeons. Another good passive combination is Energized right here. While landing crit, you get stamina and HP regen. Now, we also get increased crit chance on a debuff target, which will always be debuffed because of Skyward Slash, pretty much. If not, we got slow here. If not, we got root here. Slow here. So on and so forth. Also, this passive, when you enter in the stance, your next attack is a guaranteed critical chance. You also have Empower if you roll through targets, which pairs well with the Shuriken Empower, the PvP perk on the jewelry, on the champion's amulet, for example. But you get the idea. This passive, I think, is underwhelming. Could be good maybe in dungeons, but I don't really know. Well, this will be a must for a tank. But back to weapons. So this is the first weapon, first Greatsword that will be really good. Now let's talk about the traits, the perks on weapons. First thing we have, which I think is probably the strongest one, is Slowing Rapture. Both struck with Roaring Rapture, once again, that's our AoE AoE taunt, or 45, or a cleanser, or a weakener. It also applies a slow for 5 seconds by 42%. Since it's on weapon, it's gonna be 45, 44, I think, when it's maxed out. So on armor, it will be less than that, but it's already insane. I would say for 5 seconds, AoE slow, combined with Relentless Rush. Yeah. That tells you something about it as well. Let's move so we are not kicked, because I'm on PTR. Now, another passive we have is Relentless Freedom. As you guys know, that's the spin. Right here, that applies a root, gives you Empower. It also removes roots and slows. And on top of that, it gives you crit chance increase. You can probably see, or imagine, picture in your head how that looks, right? Now, another weapon, perk we have is Skyward Nullification. Now, Skyward, once again, is the stagger that applies a rend. It also applies a healing debuff. Hitting foe removes one of their buffs. Now, I don't know what priority it will take, what buffs are gonna get dispelled, but there's another enemy dispel. So you get 2 dispels on yourself and 1 on enemy's dispel. Now, also remaining buffs are reduced by 28%. This counts everything except the food, honing stone, coating, and the strong incense that reduces or whatever applications. And that pretty much sums up this build, I would say. Another good passive would be Calamity Counter activated. You gain stamina, 56 stamina. Now, Calamity Counter is this skill right here. You block for 2 seconds. You reduce block stamina damage by 90%, then unleash counter attack. But I feel like this is very predictable. Once again, once people get to used to this skill, they will just easily dodge it. So for you, getting 3 block attacks, causing a knockback, that's very unlikely. Unless you're surrounded with many people in war. This could be very good in wars. It will be insane in wars, as a matter of fact, if you're a melee. Maybe for a healer, this could be good as a defensive weapon. We'll see how that goes. Also as a great. We have some other stuff like applying a bleed on the target. Or you can get crit chance increase as well. In Onslaught, you get extra crit chance in Defiant. It heals you for 20% of its damage, but the damage is very weak in my opinion. 100% weapon damage. You would have to be really stacked in offensive. Who knows? I could be wrong. Some other very good passives. For example, this thing, again, tanking thing. Well, it could even be for a healer, like a support, but this seems very strong as well. Some other passives as well. I will link the skill tree builder from New World Database in the comment section, pinned message, so you guys can take a look for yourself for the passives. But I highlighted the most important things. There are some others here that are worth taking, but I haven't leveled the weapon to maximum. I'm at level 12 out of 20, so I would have to see how far I could go with maximum points. But I will show you now the footage that I recorded on BTR. I was grinding weapon masteries once again, trying to get to level 20, which will take me a bit of time. But here you can see me do the rotation. It depends. I was testing. Sometimes I did a different rotation than I was talking about a second ago. But we just want to get that also stands from the Rupture. Sorry, from the Skyward. That we can use the Rupture that pulls the target together. So you can spin through, aka Relentless Rush, to root them for 1 second and then apply a full heavy attack. Once again, if you're low on HP, you could use that. You could start off with Roaring Rupture into this Relentless Rush, the spin. As you can see right there, I had a 1 second root on the target. And the heavy attack was just enough. It went through. Like I said, you could start with the Roaring Rupture to enter the Onslaught stance, sorry, the Defiant stance. And from there, you could just Relentless Rush to get some heal. I will try to find a clip where I used it. I haven't really tried it that often. That heal, if you have 3 targets, is pretty decent. But in my opinion, if you have 1 or 2 targets, I would say that heal is just not that strong. Not that great. You could see there, I went from the Defiant stance into heavy attack, and I was blocking the incoming attacks as well. Now Skyward applies 2 stacks of rend. If you're again in the offensive stance, it applies 3 stacks. And then if you have rending throw from Hatchet, which I will probably use, Hatchet and Greatsword, then you can have an extra stack, almost a cap of rend in a short amount of time, in my opinion. But the Greatsword will pair very well with almost any weapon, is what I'm thinking. Right there, you could see I was using the spin with the Defiant stance for heal. You can see I'm gonna roll back again. Just take a look at my HP. That heal wasn't something massive, but once again, I'm a low level. Mobs are too low level, but I'm not in optimized gear with the crit chance, which I bet it would heal for much more than that. Got many empower modifiers as well. Modifiers, sorry, not modificators. So hopefully, within a week from now, we will get to see the second phase on PTR, which will unlock the Brimstone Sand location, and we'll get the level 60 boost right away, so we could test out the Greatsword to the maximum. And hopefully with some decent gear as well, with the perks. I really would like to get all 3 perks to make a full build on this setup. I feel like this setup will be absolutely massive and insane, both 1v1 and mass PvP. In wars everywhere. The amount of this weapon, every weapon should be like Greatsword with 2 things. So the first thing is its attacks are very smooth. The transition from attack to another attack is really smooth, and you have almost no animation lag compared to other weapons. You guys know Skeever is kind of animation lag, Perforate especially, some other skills as well. The skills just take too long. Maybe it's because PTR doesn't have that many players on the server, so it's not as laggy. I don't believe it will be such a huge difference. But they've done a great job. The wind up animation as well, when you start an attack, it's just responsive. The responsive of this weapon is very smooth and quick. Once you do an action, the weapon just does it. I don't really know how else to describe it, but being a melee player, testing almost all melee weapons throughout all the tests I've played, yeah, this weapon feels smooth. And because of that, it's just a bit too strong. It's just a bit too OP. Not to mention the passives, the debuffs, buffs, and the CC this weapon provides, like I showed you a couple seconds ago. But anyways, thank you for watching. This will be it. And I hope to see you next time with another video. And if you like to give it a try on PTR, go for it. I recommend go for it. Test it. Maybe you will find a different build. So until next time, you guys have a good one, and see you soon.